Here's a little update on our internet situation. So we put in the cell booster so that we can take whatever signal is out in wherever we are and amplify it into the van. That's been so helpful so far. We've had situations where we have like 1 bar and then we turn the booster on, it takes almost no power, and then suddenly we have 4 bars. It's incredible. We have an unlimited wireless plan with 30 gigabytes of mobile hotspot data. So the 30 gigabytes is enough for us to do normal internet things. We can send email, we can work on a lot of those types of things on the road. But when you're talking about maybe streaming Netflix or something like that, you're going to run through that 30 gigabytes pretty fast. And we have done that a couple months now. We were looking for a way to use our unlimited mobile data without using the hotspot to be able to stream movies and TV shows from wherever we want. So we think we came up with a pretty cool solution. I'm Alex.
I'm Kaylee.
And we are Pinter Whitnick.
We're musicians living and traveling full-time in our van.
Join us for van life adventures, music, and shenanigans on the road. We found this external monitor, which we will link in the description below. It's just over $100, and we can hook it up to our phones with a little adapter here. You have to make sure that you get the one that's actually the Apple adapter. You can't get an off-brand one because we first ordered that one and it would let us stream YouTube, but it wasn't high quality enough to pass through the HD footage from Netflix, and so it just wouldn't work at all. Netflix would say there's an error, we can't play your video. So this just has an HDMI port on one side and a lightning port here, and then it plugs into your lightning port in your iPhone. This is great because you can charge it while you're watching something, and this HDMI port will plug into the external monitor that we have. One thing of note is that the external monitor only has an HDMI mini port, so you have to get a cable that's an HDMI to HDMI mini. You plug those two ends in, and then you plug in a USB Type-C port for power to power the monitor. We have everything hooked up here, our 2 cables into the monitor, and then our HDMI into this lightning port. And then all I have to do is plug this into the iPhone and we should see the image coming back to you on the screen. And just like that, we're seeing infinite versions of this image. So it's working great. We were inspired to do something like this because we were at a festival last weekend, and we were sitting in here with my friend Chris and watching Harry Potter on the phone up in the shelf here.
I thought the trolls left the dungeon.
And so we were, all 3 of us sitting in here watching this little bitty screen, and we thought that there must be some better way. So we're gonna try to find a good location to put this. The number 1 candidate is going to be over this mirror. Maybe hooking it up here because it's really the only open spot that hasn't been completely finished yet. So that's the idea. We'll see how it goes. Thought it would be nice to tie some of the cedar back to there. So I took some of the scraps from the siding and fashioned a little frame around the screen. So I think that looks pretty nice. We now have the frame completed here. In order to mount it on the back, I just stuck this piece of 1x2, attach it to this piece of 1x2, then glued the whole thing to the frame and the screen. So hopefully now we can just sink a couple of screws through the bottom of this shelf and then down into where the screen will sit. But before we do that, I'm going to hot glue these cables in place so that they stay nice and tight against the frame. These are all hot glued in place. Because the area between the shelf and the ceiling is so tight, I'm having to use this little super handy 90-degree adapter from DeWalt. And it'll let me reach in there in a place where the drill wouldn't normally. Okay, we have this now firmly attached. Looks like it's not going anywhere. Pretty happy with how stable that is. with just 2 screws. Aside from having virtually no other spot to put the screen, part of the idea of putting it there was that you could lean against this door, sitting on the couch kind of long ways, and the screen is right there. It's kind of mounted a little bit at an angle, so it's pretty good viewing. Our initial glue job wasn't long for this world, so we had to sink a couple of screws in there, but from most positions you can't even see the screws anyway, so still really happy with how that looks. And we've routed that cable back behind here and set this little dongle right there so that when we want to use the screen, all we have to do is lift this slightly up and pull this cable out here and plug the phone in. Then when we don't want it, it can be hidden away and we don't have to look at it. Okay, now we're going from having this streaming on Netflix here with the cell booster turned on. And we just pull our cable out here and then take the phone and plug it in. And just like that, we get the image up on the screen and it looks pretty great. Now it automatically routes the sound to the little bitty speakers that are in the screen here. All we have to do is hit this button here and select this for our audio. Now we have it playing on here. With our much better speakers connected over Bluetooth. I gotta tell you, this is pretty thrilling. We had a small issue with Alaska in that all of the Aleutian Islands over here and whatever this strip of land is against Canada, we kept getting caught on them and breaking them off. So we decided to take Alaska off of the board for now, and it also makes the map of the contiguous United States a little more symmetrical, so we like the way that that looks as well. So for now, we have to say goodbye to Alaska. Well, looking around in here, everything feels really great to us. I mean, we're really excited with how everything has turned out. The only thing that feels unfinished is the area around the mirror. We're thinking maybe it could use a frame or something just to finish that out. And that might be our final main touch to finish up the van build. So this is our plan. We've taken the mirror off the wall and we're thinking of just making a frame around it the same way that we did for the screen. We had some issues making this frame for the mirror. I tried to hot glue it to the mirror and it didn't stick. So what I decided to do is super glue it, and then I had these 1/4-inch staples to reinforce these sides. The only question is, once this gets done, is how to attach it to the mirror, but I'm sure we'll find a way. So I found some mirror holders that I had before, and I put 3 of those on here, and then for good measure used a little bit of electrical tape. I don't know how much that's actually doing. It seems to be pretty stable, so it's time to put it back on the wall and see what it looks like. That looks so much better. Really happy with how that turned out. It's hard to believe, but we started working on Clever Girl in April. It started with tearing everything out of the old build, and then starting from scratch, we had completely bare walls and didn't know exactly what we were doing.
For a second, it never seemed like we were ever going to finish it. But after all this time, I think that we finally have done everything that we wanted to do in here.
Part of our process was always going to be do a little bit, do some things that we know need to be done, and then see what comes next. We try not to get too far ahead of our skis and build things that we would find out later that we didn't need in the first place. So we just did our first road trip in August, and that was like the final confirmation of we have pretty much everything we need at that point, and it felt good, and everything worked as it should. The only things that we had to finish up were some odds and ends, but we're pretty psyched that it's finally done.
So the next thing that we're working on is a full van tour, so we can show you the ins and outs, every little detail, every big detail, and we're very excited to be working on that and to show you what we did with the space.
And then tomorrow we're actually leaving for our second big road trip. So we're heading to the East Coast. We're gonna go to Niagara Falls, upstate New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and come back. So it's going to be a blast. We get to test out all the new things that we added in this video, and we're looking forward to getting back on the road.
We really are. Thank you so much for staying tuned on this whole van build journey. It's been wonderful, and we are so excited to show you what comes next.
We'll see you soon.